How can you know if you're really customer-centric? It's a question I very often get. And there are multiple ways to address this. You can look to your customer satisfaction scores, you can look at your net promoter score, or you can ask yourself, is our rewarding system linked with our customer satisfaction? Those are all very valid points to look at. But what I like to do is I like to ask a company 3 questions to find out if they're really customer-centric. And that first question is, how do you react when you have an opposing interest with your client? Let me give you an example to make it clear. Imagine a bank. Imagine a client of a bank that has a sleeping bank account that they didn't use for the last 5 years. But every year they pay an annual fee for the support and maintenance of that sleeping bank account. Imagine that you have a large pool of those customers. How do you deal with that as a bank? Will you keep that as silent as possible to bring in the money without any effort? Or will you go to those clients and say, hey, you have a sleeping account, we need to talk about this, you need to shut it down because you're paying us and it's not bringing you any value? Or are you going back to the client and saying, hey, you've been paying us for the last 5 years, we didn't bring any value, we're going to pay you back for that. And you see how the level of customer centricity is building up. And that's a mindset that I think is crucial to understand how customer-centric you are. How do you deal with those opposing interests? That was question number 1. Question number 2, what's your mindset when a problem occurs, when something goes wrong in an interaction between you and your client? Do you have a let's fix it mindset, which means that you will fix the problem as soon as possible and that's your key priority at that moment? Or do you have a let's find out whose fault it is mindset? And the two define how customer-centric you are. The majority of the organizations will look for the person who made the mistake, if it's your fault as a customer or my fault, and then they will act. Whereas a customer, they just want to have a solution, and afterwards you can look how to improve the process or figure out what went wrong. Fix it attitude versus let's find out who did it attitude. That's question number 2. And question number 3 is this: how empowered are your employees to solve problems? We all know these organizations where you have a problem and you're talking with an employee, and at a certain moment they're like, let me ask my manager. That basically, as a customer, that's the sentence you don't want to hear. You don't want to talk to a manager, you just want the problem to be solved, and you want that person that is sitting in front of you to have the capacity and the empowerment to basically solve that problem. And in some organizations, people are not allowed to do anything. In other organizations, people are trained and facilitated to solve a problem, whatever it takes, because they know that is what the organization and the customer expects from them. 3 very simple questions, but believe me, if you check that upon yourself, you will have a much more clear view to find out how customer-centric you are. How do you deal with opposing interests? What's your mindset with mistakes? Fix it, find out who did it, and how empowered are your employees? That's how you can find out how customer-centric you are.